going ahead and loading. Just in case anybody from the previous stream is going to jump into this stream. Okay. I was in the middle of some kind of puzzle or something, but I'm not even gonna... Nah. Nope. Alright, let's go find something to do. Let's go find something to do. Something to do. I don't know why it's not showing that whole message. It's weird that it shows an icon, though, but it doesn't show the full message. It'd be nice if it just expanded and showed the whole message. Let's go just grab some ambrosia, which is going to take me far, far from here, and I can just do some adventuring along the way. You'll probably have to say that again, because I didn't see the whole message, except that it was talking about ludicrous speed. Where is the map pointer? I know it's far away, but it should be sending me towards the pin. I'm not seeing the red pin even on my mini-map. That's kind of screwy. Anyway, for those who don't know, this is Immortals. I'm trying to move around to see if I can get it to pop up, and it's not popping up on my mini-map, like, at all. Which is not cool. Not cool at all. But that's okay. Where is it in relation to the... I hate the fact that you have to, every time you want to go to the freaking map, you gotta click the top, like touchpad type button, if it was a PS4, and then click over to the left every damn time. Alright, so it's on, that's fine, so it's en route to what it's showing me there anyway, so might as well. Yeah, this is Immortals Fenyx Rising, or as I call it, a Greek mythology version of Legend of Zelda, if Legend of Zelda had any sense of humor whatsoever. Because typically it doesn't. At least not a good sense of humor. Been a while since I played, so I'm trying to remember the controls here. This is the one that I can actually play in front of my son, compared to all the other games. No control. I guess I might be able to play the Star Wars Squadrons, but I have a really hard time getting into that game at all. Okay, so there must be some key to a puzzle around here if I wanted to try to find this one. I don't know what it would be, and it's not really what I'm trying to do, but why not? Okay. Oh, well, apparently it's not up here, whatever it is. Oh, but there is a... What is this? Huh. I'm assuming this has nothing to do with it. But it might. Oh, but it's locked, so I'm betting if I hit it, nothing's gonna happen. Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. Any films that were alternate titles? Honestly, don't know. Not really something I follow all that much. Did Chrono Radio, and I missed it. Was it Plot something? God, I am really missing the old PlayStation 4 way of streaming where you had a freaking column for the chat off to the side. So you could actually continuously see the chat and not have, you know, anything that said disappear in a matter of seconds. I prefer gliding to swimming, even though she can do both. Alright, buddy boy. see. Do I remember how to do my special? Yeah, that's a fun one. Takes up some of my stamina, but it's pretty fun. How was the T&J film? As in Tom and Jerry? I have no idea. My wife and my son watched it, but I have no idea. Not really my thing. I like the fact that on this you've got like a regular arrow that you can use, but then there's also that one that I used a moment ago that's like a guided one that you can... It's one of your abilities that you eventually unlock. Oh, plot theories. Not... I mean, I don't think it really addressed plot theories as such. I tended to kind of, you know, if I was reviewing a book, it might be, you know, here's how... This must be a... Okay. Like if I was reviewing a book, it might be like, this is what might be coming next. Here's speculation of where these characters might go, kind of stuff. Okay, so that... Where's the one that the middle one unlocked then? Oh, there it is. It's up top. Okay. Got it. Let's wait till these things redo themselves. Oh, really? I don't have to hit them all at once? That's kind of surprising. So yeah, I don't think it was plot theories as such, but I mean, like definitely where do they go from here, or if there was something where we had some level of like some type of like take something. I'm trying to think of a good example of this. Like, I mean, just take something like the beginning of Star Wars Legacy, right? Yes, there's flashbacks, but there's a lot of unanswered questions about like what exactly happened, Sith Imperial War and all that kind of stuff. So I like speculate about stuff like that, but not necessarily whole episodes on plot speculation per se. Although I will say that something that ties directly into the Star Wars Timeline Gold did actually involve plot speculation, although the timeline typically did not. Kind of see what this new ability is. Damn, I like that one. Yeah, she's a girl. Fenyx is a young woman. And she has a weird dash move. This is her dash, but it's like square, so it's kind of a pain to use, because I'm always clicking down the left stick. Okay, so where was I going? I was going way the hell out there to get some ambrosia. And just curious to see what I'd run into. Like I said, the downside of the old chrono radios is just hard to find the time to listen, but hopefully soon. I'd like to just put them on an external drive and maybe just play them while I'm working over summer session to find stuff that sounds cool. It's so rough. Some of the early episodes are so freaking bad. Like I listened to the first episode again a while back, and it was just like yikes. In fact, I think I missaid the name of the show on the first episode once. Because it was Chrono Radio, but we had a small group of fellow timeliners working together and sharing information that we called the Chrono Net temporarily. And I think at one point I called it Chrono Net Radio. Get a drink of some Cherry Coke here before my throat goes. But the story that goes back to the whole plot thing. When Phantom Menace was about to come out, I really enjoyed those magazines that were all about like plot theories and crap, and usually it was all bullshit. But early on, and this is when I was a high school know-it-all douche. I will freely admit a high school know-it-all douche. Or at least thought I knew it all for sure. So there was a guy who ran a Star Wars online. It was like a club, but in all honesty, it was like a tiny group of people on a message board who had like an email list that they never really did anything with. And a friend and I joined the group, and it turned out they weren't really doing much of anything. And instead of saying we're going to start our own group or doing something remotely mature, we challenged the guy in charge of the group to a trivia battle for control of the group. It was stupid. It was asinine. But in the process of it, in the process of doing so, we wound up taking over the group. And that group led to an official group newsletter called Holocron Ramblings. Hello. And that Holocron Ramblings, I think it was like the second, I don't know if it was the first or the second issue of Holocron Ramblings, which was an email-based newsletter with like HTML for pretty pictures and crap, you know, back in like the AOL days, like 1997. It was through that the first mailed copies of the early Star Wars timeline that eventually became the Star Wars Timeline Gold came through. It was how I distributed it. So, and that newsletter involved quite a bit of plot speculation where I broke down the Phantom Menace's trailers shot by shot and speculated on what it could all mean at the time. So Colonel Radio didn't do a whole lot of speculation, but speculation was part of that newsletter, which didn't last very long, but which helped provide an initial distribution base for the timeline. I think it was the timeline, either 1.1 or 2.0 was what got released through the newsletter. That eventually led to a bigger mailing list until eventually it became sort of a thing in and of itself, had its own website and everything, and then grew obviously over the next, you know, almost 21 years. And when I say that the newsletter, you know, when I say that the newsletter with the timeline attached to it was difficult to deal with, our home internet connection, our home dial-up connection, could not handle the file. So what would happen is, when I would have one ready, I would go to my dad's veterinary office, use his internet connection on his office computer to actually send it out. And I would have to sit there for this tiny ass file, under today's standards, I would have to sit there for like 45 minutes to an hour, hoping the connection didn't die, just to send the freaking newsletter with the timeline out. It was redonkulous. Okay, now I'm close enough to actually pay attention to where I'm going. The little marker, looking for some ambrosia. But yeah, and what's funny is, Largo, in case you didn't catch the stream a little bit ago, the whole reason I'm doing any streaming right now, aside from the fact that my son is asleep, and his mom, my wife, happens to not be home tonight. She's quarantining after a test, COVID test, but she's vaccinated. It's just a precaution for everybody at the hospital where she works at who got exposed recently. But it gave me an opportunity to test out the streaming on the PS5 after having gotten a new internet plan, the AT&T Fiber 1000, as opposed to the broadband that I had before through AT&T. This is much cheaper and hella faster. So yeah, to be talking about, kind of ironic to be talking about dial-up internet in the early days when I'm on the fastest connection now that I've ever had. Come on, you. This is one of those games where, like, I just screw around to the point where I realize I've played a ton, and I probably haven't done even, like, a quarter of the story, because I don't bother to ever actually... I mean, like, I don't even remember, I think that symbol up there of the apple, I think that is a story mission to progress the story, but I honestly don't remember. Okay, and to answer the question about... I'm trying to figure out where the ambrosia is. It must be up top somewhere. To answer that question about... oh, well, there you go. The WB logo appearing Well, I guess the question is, what re-release are you talking about? A 2021 re-release of the Clone Wars? Is this hypothetical? I mean, my guess would be it would probably be whatever the original was. I doubt they would change it, but they might. Typically, I would hope that it would just be unchanged, but we've seen that before, as you mentioned before with the 20th Century Fox logo. But, yeah. I'm not sure what you mean by a re-release. Like, if it was re-released? If it's going to be released, that'd be freaking awesome. But, haven't seen anything with that yet. Okay, well, apparently, I'm going towards whatever the next... whatever the next objective is, because I'm close to whatever that Apple thing is. Maybe Fenyx is gonna go get a new iPhone. Huh. Wonder where it is. Oh. Whee! Okay, well, gee, are they leading me to the next objective? Golly, I wonder. Just like Zelda, you got that new stamina gauge kind of thing going on. Okay, so quest zone. Okay. So what, I've got to figure out a way to get in somewhere, or... Oh, well, okay. Apparently I'm going to trigger a cutscene. It's getting hot in here, because I've got a light on over there shining on me so that I'm not in total darkness even though the lights are up here, because the lights up here suck. I like the fact that they're all cutscenes that are using the in-game engine. They're not pre-rendered, so your character, I mean, aside from the fact that her hood's down, they look, you look like whatever your character's equipped with.
What's happening to me?
Aphrodite got, like, turned into a tree or some shit.
Find Aphrodite.
And you're having to, like save her by freeing the roots of the tree that she was turned into or something.
You did what? I mean,
but it's funny though, like if you actually have any interest in like Greek mythology, it is a tongue-in-cheek kind of parody type of take on Greek mythology, and that's the sound of Zeus and Prometheus, I think, talking about the situation and kind of mocking each other in the process. It's, like I said, it's like Zelda-esque, but it's like if Zelda had a sense of humor at all. Now, what am I supposed to do? Find Aphrodite. That don't tell me anything. I can figure out. Again, every time I click, it takes me to this page. You can't go straight to the map, which is freaking stupid. Oh, that's a big old area to search for her. Okay. I don't have the slightest idea where she might be. Oh, hey. Don't be such a bull. So uncivilized, right? Come on, you... I had taken so long since playing this that I had completely forgotten. Last time I played, I completely forgot that she has like a parrying move. So I was fighting all these bosses you're supposed to parry to be able to make them vulnerable enough to attack, and I didn't remember that parrying was a thing. So, kind of sucked. I have seen the first ones. I have not seen today's yet. My wife and I tend to watch it together, and since she is quarantining for tonight while she waits for her rapid test results to come back, again, no big worries. I mean, she should be fine. But that means waiting until... Yeah, she turned into a freaking tree. Waiting until later to see it. I'm told it's the Fenyx Shand episode, though, so kind of cool to see the crossover.
Well, I appreciate that you were trying to help me. There was really no need to trouble
Okay,
yourself.
so... Why are your eyes...
If we could move the route, I could get you. I can move the route anytime I want.
Uh-oh. Yeah, basically, I forget which one. Was it Ares? No, Typhon, I guess, is the big bad of this, who's like changed the nature of the gods into something that somehow resembles their true nature or some whatever. So as it gets darker,
There's no need to
and you're
concern
getting like
yourself
the
with
weird,
my essence.
like lightning-looking energy stuff, I'm assuming it's Typhon about ready to start a battle.
For no reason? You're undead to me.
Hermes, all my
Hermes.
pettiest jealousies and all my most self-absorbed beliefs.
But
were
part of me is like, I want to be able to understand the story,
Why
so I
would
want to
I
see the
ever
cutscenes and at
be
least
united with
skim what it's saying,
Sure,
but at the same time, I'm
you're
like,
the most charitable person, but
please.
that's not everything.
please.
Remember all the fun
Keep going.
we had gossiping about the other gods? Making fun of the ugly sashes Hera wears to parties?
That busted sash made her look like a shriveled carrot. No, no.
Come on, I'll answer in just
It
a
was
second.
all time wasted. I should have been more. I never measured up.
What in Hades are you talking about, never measured up?
Yeah, they just
By
went with
whose
like,
standard?
What's she
you know.
talking about?
Then again, I
I
mean,
can't imagine.
maybe they're going for more
No
of like
use. She
an
won't
Alexander the
hear
Great
reason.
era,
Try insulting
Right?
some other gods.
No,
you know?
it would only be fun for me. Acts of charity are all good and necessary, but not from Aphrodite. Her spice made the world interesting. She added a zing to things,
Okay.
you know?
She literally changed the world. I
mean-
mean, she started the Trojan War. And also she could be named the most beautiful.
That's it.
I
That's
don't
it.
know if we have time to start a war, Hermes.
No, no.
Come
We'll
on.
bring her the prize her vanity won her. Something she
Something
wanted
she-
so much, she let the world go to war for it. If she sees it, maybe she'll want her old zing back.
The apple of discord.
The apple of discord.
I'll find it
So,
as soon as
oh,
I can.
I have
Good.
that.
She's boring right now.
I have that, I
can't
believe.
make one remark about what Persephone is doing with her hair.
That's what that is, right?
Rattling on about the needy.
That's what that is, right?
I miss
The
old
Discord of Apple?
Aphrodite.
Oh, no, the Apple of Discord, not the Discord of Apple. Not the App Store version of Discord. Got it. Oh, it's way the hell over there now. Apparently. Go somewhere. Now I need you to go all the way across the map to do something completely different. You bastards. That's fine. I'm gonna go to a vault instead. So let's see. In relation to Dank Ferric, right? In relation to trilogies, favorite trilogy. I think the original trilogy is still my favorite trilogy overall.
My perfection with Israel.
That said,
will make you see.
I'm a big fan of Revenge of the Sith. Okay, Wraith is coming after me now, I would assume. Big fan of, oh shit, big fan of Revenge of the Sith. But I tend to think of Attack of the Clones as fairly weak, and Phantom Menace as fairly weak. That said, there is, oh, duh, I forgot. I thought that was like a curled up enemy. It's not, it's like a frickin', like, meteorite that hit the ground near here. I went to check it out. It didn't take long to blow up in my face. But yeah, original trilogy just kind of like overall. That said, there's the Wraith right there. I would say that, you know, they all kind of have a different flavor, right? But I would say it's probably, even though I've for years Revenge of the Sith was my favorite Star Wars film, I would say I would probably be a original trilogy, then sequel, then prequel. But that, of course, leaves out the Star Wars story films, which tend to be the ones I watch the most lately. Not get killed. Not that I really care. Like I said, this is the game that I screw around so much I don't even... Like, the fact that I just progressed the story at all is like a shock, because it's been so long since I bothered to ever progress the story for this game. There you go. Well, see, and then maybe it's nostalgia for me. I mean, I was born in '79. It was, let's see, so I was born in '79, so my mom supposedly took me to see Empire Strikes Back when I was a baby. A, I don't remember. B, I kind of hope not, because I hate when people bring babies to movie theaters these days. And And then Return of the Jedi is the one that I actually vaguely remember seeing a ton, and that's the one that got me really hooked with a lot of the toys really doing a lot of the hooking. And then what I watched a lot growing up was a VHS cassette where we had recorded off of TV Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and from Star Wars to Jedi, The Making of a Saga. We didn't have A New Hope until I actually bought the 1992 box sets, both of them in 1993, with my mom ordering them through the Lucasfilm Company store with a credit card after I had saved up the money for them. So, come on, you. I don't even remember if this guy gives me anything decent whenever he dies. I can't remember. I'm assuming it's like resources or something. See, I like them both. I think that that Legends overall was a greater quality of storytelling so far. They haven't really been willing to take many chances until High Republic, really a lot with the new stuff. But that being said, I think some of the strongest, most, captivating Star Wars storytelling that we have gotten in quite a while is in the form of Rogue One and Rebels. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, well, it's almost like it's not about which continuity I prefer so much as which continuity for which type of media. When it comes to TV, Disney Canon's got it all over the place. When it comes to movies, to some degree it does, because it just adds movies instead of removing them. But when it comes to, like, the books, not so much. The comics, not so much. And, of course, I didn't get a chance to participate in canon. Although Marvel is still selling digital copies of the comic that my story is in. And, of course, like with pretty much everybody, I will never see a cent in royalties for any of those new sales, I'm sure. Just killed the guy already. Downside of these arrows that I discovered is that if you fire one and then you let go, it doesn't just keep going. It's like the arrow disappears. Shit. There, you're dead. What do I get out of it? A bunch of that resource, though I forget what I can even do with it.
The legendary heroes prove to be no match for your skill.
Yeah, that's one of those things that just happens every once in a while. Like, as you're playing, after a certain point, every once in a while, like, it'll go dark and Typhon will send somebody after you. Yeah. I've had... The reason why a saga on home video is being self-published, well, why the first edition was self-published 4 years ago, why all 3 volumes of the second edition are being self-published for this year, when I finally get it ready. I don't think I have the binder in here, or I'd show you the size of the binder. I got my notes in here, some of them. But I didn't get a chance to read that. But my brain is like, yeah, so my experience was pretty bad. So the first professional thing I ever wrote was the Star Wars Tales story. It was a weird instance, right? You typically had to be a published author. You typically had to have some previous experience. You had to be invited to the party, etc., etc. In my case, I got lucky because Jeremy Barlow was being allowed to bring in people to write for Tales who hadn't had previous experience necessarily, but he saw my Star Wars Timeline Gold, the audio drama stuff that I was doing at the time, like Second Strike, and the passion exhibited through Chrono Radio, particularly a rant against Dark Horse, ironically, and some of their issues that they were having. And that was enough to get him to say, you know what, hey, he can write for us, he could do this well. And so in that case, you get paid, you're not a regular writer, right? So you get paid, I was stupid, you get paid, god dang it, if I can remember, I crouched and couldn't remember how to uncrouch. You got paid by the page, initially, and let me get you here in the face there. Boom. You got paid by the page, so like I got paid X amount for 14 pages of comic worth of script. And the idea is that, you know, after a certain amount of sales, which typically is way more than is actually probably going to sell, you would get extra royalties on reprinting. So it comes out physically with 2 different covers, gets put into the trade paperback, and excuse me, I'm gonna have to take a drink in a second. Yeah, my throat's feeling all raspy. Hang on a second. Yeah, so yeah, we had the the 2 different covers for the original edition. It gets put out in trade paperback. It gets a Hasbro comic pack with 2 action figures with it. It eventually gets released digitally as the regular version and as the I have no idea what that is, and as the trade paperback version digitally. But after that initial payment, either it didn't ever sell enough to officially cross the line for royalties, or they simply do not keep track of that and pay them. So didn't have any good luck with that with Dark Horse with those. Now Marvel is putting it out digitally as well, and I haven't seen a cent or anything for that. Then the next publisher that I worked with was kind of a small outfit, whose thing was basically, they had gotten the rights to the Wars franchise based on the Decipher card game that itself was based on the Star Wars CCG that Decipher had put out when that line ended. And yes, I'm totally just running around right now just to give myself a reason to continue talking. So I wrote 2 Wars novellas for them. Healers and Hunters and On Red Soil. Healers and Hunters got an ebook release and a graphic release where it had, you know, images throughout. Then it had, then the second one was released as an ebook, and then each of the ebooks got compiled with stories by 2 other authors at a time into print books. The same company was willing to take my previously self-published sci-fi novel, time travel and telepath novel, Greater Good. I don't even know where I'm going. And publish it for professionally for the first time, which was kind of a big thing for me. Aside from getting some like copies, like some free copies of the book to use or give away or sell myself, I don't think I ever saw a cent from any of that work at all. I mean, it gave me the bona fides to be able to have them, but completely screwed on that. The same company actually was in the process of supposedly making an audio drama based on one of the 2 other properties they were working on that were original, and I did a ton of voice work for characters in one of those audio dramas, and the audio drama never materialized. So kind of got screwed on that. So in general, my feelings on working with publishers has been bad. Now the publisher that I'm working with now, who I wrote a couple stories for 10,000 Dawns, one of their franchises, and who are now the publishers of the combined, you know, new edition of Greater Good, which also includes Echoes, the other, like the novella that I had self-published years ago that got revised and released in that. They've been pretty good. They've been great, but I also know the guy that's behind it, and have known him in the community for years, you know. So someone that I trust going into it, not someone that I'm meeting just because of the publishing. And he's a good guy. So that has been a positive experience, but by and large, my experience has been enough that I was like, nope. So I want to have complete creative control over it. I want to not have to deal with that bullshit. And if I'm going to make any money off of it, it's going to go to me. Not disappear into the coffers of a publisher and then never be seen again. So yeah. I don't even remember where that came from, that whole part of that conversation. I think it was Legend. Yeah, it was Legends versus Canon, right? And the fact that I had a chance to, a couple of times to contribute into Legends. The Star Wars Tales story, assisting with some clarification of dates and some like proofreading of dates for the Knights of the Old Republic, or I guess it was the Old Republic video game, video timeline stuff that they did online. Stuff like that. Nope. I don't think I can actually upgrade anything at this point. Nope. Yeah, but it sucks. Nope. 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 Like I said, I'm just kind of screwing around just to have a reason to continue talking. Let's see. Okay, so there were questions, and I don't think I caught the questions. The Chuckle, whatever it was, critters I've never heard of. I'm not really into the classic cartoons. If it wasn't a US cartoon in the 80s, I probably had never heard of it. Okay, so what is nearby that I can do to kill some time? There's an unexplored vault, if I can figure out where it is. I was about to say it's 1,900 away, but it's because I'm so high up. Those aren't like, there's different types of wings you can equip. Her wings aren't necessarily always bat-like. Usually they're more like angelic looking. Oh, okay. Yeah, that was a question about, I mean, I think that there was a level of undermining. On the other hand, to a degree, it was sort of undermining the underminer, because you got to figure that most of what was done by Rian Johnson was not what would have been in the plan under Abrams, right? I am less concerned with the idea that Last Jedi somewhat undermined, that Rise of Skywalker somewhat undermined Last Jedi when, yeah, it did. Seemingly intentionally undoing some of the changes, or some of the new interpretations, as I am with the fact that that could have happened in the first place. And why could it happen in the first place? Because there is no overall plan. They let them just do whatever the hell they wanted without an overall plan in mind. And you can't do that at this point and maintain that kind of continuity. That's why I'm actually kind of glad that we have Filoni in the position that he is now. But that said, with Filoni being in charge, I mean, some of the biggest continuity gaps, continuity changes, ignoring of existing continuity have come from Filoni, right? They've been telling us for years with the new canon that, well, it's all canon, right? It's all equally valid. Well, that's a load of horse shit. No, it's not all equally valid. If you're going to deal with contradictions on a case-by-case basis, then sure, they're all equally valid. But if you're going to deal with them on a case-by-case basis, supposedly, but every single time you give precedence to what is in TV and movies over books, comics, or anything else, then by definition, that is not an everything is equal. You have a tiered system. Whether you're going to acknowledge it or not, you have a tiered system. And that's kind of been the issue. But what we're finding is that even though they're claiming that's the case, Filoni himself has been the one who, for instance, Mandalorian. Hey, cool. We have this character, and his name is escaping me right now. We have this character on Tatooine. We have Timothy Oliphant playing him, Cobb Vanth. We have this character who showed up in the Aftermath novels. And he had Boba Fett's armor. Wouldn't it be cool if we used him for the Mandalorian? That'd be awesome. Yeah, except you completely change his backstory. Or, hey, we're going to allow E.K. Johnston, when she does her Ahsoka novel, to give flashbacks to the Siege of Mandalore because those episodes were never made. Isn't that going to be cool? Well, yeah, except then when you finally make them, you change shit. And the same thing, it was a big deal when the Kanan comic series was allowed to tell the origins of Kanan Jarrus, and Order 66 with Depa Bilaba. Okay, except now they've completely changed the circumstances of it, except for just a couple of minor details in the Bad Batch, just to give them a way to introduce the Bad Batch with a familiar character as the Padawan. And those were Filoni. So Filoni's given us some excellent Star Wars adventures, but at the same time, how much does he really give a shit about continuity when it wasn't him not only influencing it, but actually making it? Because surely he influenced the Kanan comic and the Ahsoka novel, because it was based on stuff that had been put into, you know, Rebels and put into the Clone Wars that were meant to be made or had been made, to elaborate on the universe he created, or the, not universe, but the characters within the universe and situations that he had created, and yet somehow he's like, F it. Yay! So yeah, I tend to, I mean, it'd be nice to think there's a plan involved, but there's totally not. And at least with Lucas, there was the fact that he's the guy who created it all, and he doesn't pay attention to the novels or the comics or anything. And he can do whatever he wants because he's like the god of Star Wars. He is the overriding figure. He owns it. He gets to make the decision. Except, you know, that's not the way it winds up, you know, turning out, because sometimes, you know, a company gets sold and they give that authority to somebody else, as happened in this case. And yet, you know, those people don't necessarily, I mean, they have the legal authority, they have the creative control, but they lose a level of that almost moral authority to be the one to to make the changes, and everyone else has to live with it, especially when they are telling us up front that, no, we're going to make it all work better. That's what the story group is for. Well, it's not how it's really been working out. The whole point was the story group was supposed to be like the new Lucas, but also trying to keep it all working. So with the power of Lucas, but power of Lucas and the sensibility of Pablo and Chi. And it hasn't really worked out like that. At least it doesn't seem to be. Death Star explosions. Doesn't really matter. Really. I think that it's probably more realistic, the original ones. The shockwave thing has always been a little odd, but it was made popular, if I recall. Or at least it's something I became more aware of, constantly seeing happening with, was it Praxis, I guess? In The Undiscovered Country, Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. Ooh, there's another... Ambrosia is something I know that I can use, so I don't even have to pay attention to what I'm doing. I can just be like, look at the crystal thing and go find it. If you can find the crystal thing, you're gonna help your health in the long run. Don't know where the hell it is. It's somewhere up and over there. So we're just gonna keep climbing and hope for the best. Unlike Zelda, this is designed in such a way that usually there's a place that you can stop and rest for just a second to rebuild your stamina in the middle of a long climb. Zelda Breath of the Wild was basically a stamina management game. I'm assuming it's up here. I hear the little crystally sound. But maybe it's not. Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay. And there's some bad guys next to it. Let's pop a couple of them in the forehead. Or the 5 head. As a kid, that guy's gonna get a shield. Until all these little guys are killed. But thankfully the little guys are easy to kill, especially with these arrows, if I don't let myself get killed by standing still, focusing on the arrows themselves. Dun, dun, dun. That must have been like a Chiss Greek. Most of them are red. Somehow this guy was blue. That is one thing with Star Wars right now that's kind of throwing me a little bit because you've got the situation where, you know, in the Legends continuity, Thrawn was a problem to me, in the Legends continuity, because Thrawn was awesome in the original Thrawn trilogy. I would say Thrawn as a Spectre, the concern of Thrawn, basically, like just the idea that he might be back, made a great political Spectre in the Hand of Thrawn duology, which I still think is a very underrated duology. I really enjoyed it at the time, the political intrigue and all. But after that, in almost every subsequent appearance, it was like Zahn decided to make Thrawn into a god. And to the point where he could basically predict everybody's moves, like 50 moves ahead, perfectly. There was no point in going up against him, but he was still a villain, right? What's happening now with canon is we get introduced to Thrawn, or reintroduced to Thrawn, introduced the canonical version of Thrawn as this master strategic villain, more in a Moriarty vein, or a Sherlock Holmes gone bad kind of vein, than a god, or all-knowing, all-seeing. No one matches my practical tactical brilliance, I guess, to use the Hamiltonism. Is very much like a Hamilton or a Lafayette. Hello. In that sense, right? The tactical brilliance. These guys are gonna kick my ass. Ain't no way I'm sticking around here. But then in the very first story we get with Thrawn, in canon, outside of I'm trying to figure out where this chest is. Probably up on top of there. Yep, it is. Very first story we get with Thrawn, really outside of Rebels, is the novel Thrawn, and then of course we get the rest of that trilogy, and then now we've got the Chiss Ascendancy trilogy, which is quite good. They've all been quite good. Thrawn remains a tactical genius, a Sherlock Holmes type guy, but not completely infallible. Not a demigod. Great. Except, we now have, by the time this the current trilogy is over, we're going to have 6 books in which Thrawn is basically the hero. And to a degree, that undermines him, I think, as a villain. Makes him more interesting as a character, undermines him as a villain. Because when we see him as a villain, it's like, what the hell, man? And it's not like a villain who fell from grace, or a villain who got corrupted. This is not Anakin becoming Vader. This is just Thrawn being Thrawn. It's just, sometimes we're seeing the story from his point of view, and sometimes it's the point of view of the people whose ass he's trying to kick. And that, to me, it creates a new version of a Thrawn problem. Although it's not nearly as big a problem as when Legends basically let him become basically a god. Alright, guys, let me get out here to a better angle. And I keep forgetting I've got all these abilities I don't even use. Here. Yeah. I should use that more. You think? Here I am busy using my damn bow and arrow for everything. 'Cause I'm just talking. The podcaster in him is coming back out. Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's any questions that I missed. And I may have. I very well may have, especially given the weirdness of the interface here. I've got to see if there is, aside from having to use friggin' Twitch or something, I need to see if there is a better way. It's got to be underneath me, right? A better way of doing... Oh, okay. A better way of doing the streaming so I can see a chat. Okay, I need to... Alright, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. I wonder if I... Oh, nope. Alright, I gotta aim just right to light it. I mean, I think that Star Wars... Oh, what the crap. Did it work? It just went out. What is going on? I may have to wait until I figure this out. Well, I'm trying to see. Do I have to hit these in a certain order? Apparently I do. Okay, so there must be something to tell me the order around here. So it's not just trial and error. Although trial and error isn't bad. I mean, I'm sitting here just talking, so why not just do trial and error? Should people get along with, thanks to Star Wars, even with politics being what it is? I mean, I think Star Wars, I would like to have thought that it's something that could bring us together. But I'm not sure that that's the case much of the time anymore, frankly. Ideally, yes, it'd be something we could all enjoy without politics tainting it. Although Star Wars has always had a political angle, and an allegorical angle. Nope, okay, apparently not. So it's kind of hard to have Star Wars without the politics. But it'd be nice if not everything... I forget which one. Is it this one or the other one? Yeah. It'd be nice if not everything were tainted politically at this point. But everything is. I don't think it's that Star Wars has become political. Star Wars was already political. It's that Star Wars... Oh, there we go. Okay. Nope, what'd I get? Did I get like a chest or something? We just unlocked something. Yeah, here we go. Everything is just being affected by politics, especially with social media being what it is. So, I don't think Star Wars per se is the source of the issues. I think Star Wars is affected by those broader issues, and until those broader issues are dealt with or changed in society, which I don't see necessarily happening, Star Wars will be affected by it, and fandom will be split by it. As to the question about the 2011 changes, some of the 2011 changes are just kind of dumb. I mean, some of them are superfluous. Like R2-D2 having more doodads when he's shocked, or when he's shot, or yeah, I think he's shocked, I guess, in Return of the Jedi. Superfluous. And some of them make no logical sense. Like, hey, we're going to have the rocks in front of R2-D2 from this angle, now they're not seen from the other angle in A New Hope. Or, hey, here's a reverse TARDIS thing going on because here's the door to Jabba's palace that's way bigger on the outside now than it is from the inside. Most are innocuous. Some of them are just dumb. It's like Lucas went from, like with each new iteration, the argument that he is following a purpose, there's a method to the madness, gets thinner and thinner, in essence. Okay, what is this? Okay, I don't know what, if I step, oh, okay, what the crap, okay, must be some kind of like time trial or something. I have no idea what it would be. I'm just kind of running. Am I going to this one, maybe? I have no idea. Apparently not. It's getting way too hot. I gotta turn off that light. My apologies. Whew. Please turn off that one light. But, oh, there we go. Okay, I see it. It's a path. Okay, I was pointing in the wrong direction. Hence, not having the slightest idea where the path was. Derp. Guess it would help if I was paying attention to my surroundings better here. Were the changes to the sequel trilogy, or will there be changes to the sequel trilogy? I doubt it. And I guess there was a question about whether they will refilm scenes or something. I don't see any of that kind of stuff happening. What the crap? I don't see any of that stuff having any credence. The idea of refilming scenes. And the idea of special editions. I mean, they don't tend to do much. I mean, the changes we've seen have all been Lucas directed. Even the change with McClunky, even once Lucas was already gone, that was a Lucas-directed change, because it was something that he did. Where is the... I guess I'm not supposed to hit the ground, so where's the next vortex? I mean, that was him during the remastering that eventually led to 4K, but was also heading into the 3D releases that, you know, didn't wind up happening. I'll just go into the vault thing. You don't tend to see Disney do that much with films, unless they're doing it to sanitize something for modern audiences. Like, what was it, changing the dryer into like a cabinet or something in Lilo and Stitch, that kind of stuff. I have no idea who those people are, so I'm going to say probably not. Along the lines of Airplane, if you're talking parody, I just want them to release, release Detours. Give me Detours. Yeah, modern audiences, modern sensibilities. It's kind of like the argument that I make when it comes to diversity in Star Wars and Disney, and the idea of, well, Disney's got an agenda, you know, for diversity. Well, just because something is an agenda, just because something is something they want to do, just because something is something that they think is valuable to do, doesn't make it an agenda with a capital A. It could just be an agenda with a lowercase a. Yeah, of course they're doing it on purpose. But we live in a time when, increasingly, if you want someone to be able to see themselves, you know, you always want your audience to see themselves in the your story, right? To be able to identify with the characters and all. And, you know, there was a time when primarily a lot of the identification, because a lot of the characters tended to be samey, you wind up with, you wind up in situations where the only way to identify with a character tends to come from character type. The young man, the sassy person, some kind of defining character trait that is not a demographic trait, basically. But increasingly over time, societally, we now tend to divide ourselves even more. I teach sociology, by the way, as one of my subjects. We tend to divide ourselves more and more, thinking of ourselves in terms of race, gender, sexual orientation, and stuff like that. Demographic ways of defining ourselves. Like, he's not a... If I were to you know, give all the definitional things about, say, me, someone would expect me, I sit down on the controller, someone would, because I talk with my hands, someone would expect me to refer to myself as like maybe a white male American straight teacher or whatever, right? Teacher wouldn't be one of the earlier things said, although I know that there's like an order of adjectives kind of in English. But it wouldn't be teacher that necessarily gets the emphasis when it comes to how someone defines themselves. Now, whether you want to call that intersectionalism, like not in the pejorative way, but in like intersectionalism in the definitional way, or you want to talk about that as something else, if people in society are tending to define themselves by those types of demographics now, as that's the way they see themselves in stories, then if you want to see to have a more diverse audience be able to see themselves in the stories, you're going to have to diversify in that way, not just character type, but demographically as well. And if you're in a situation where, let's say 75% of your main heroic characters were white or white male, for instance, or straight or whatever it might be, then even getting to a 50-50 split from what used to be 75-25, unless you're going to kill off characters, that's a huge amount of new characters you are going to have to add as you're adding new characters proportionally of those underrepresented groups versus the overrepresented groups. So it's not a shock that in trying to appeal to a more diverse audience and have a more diverse character base, which really should be the case in the galaxy far, far away anyway, when you got all these different cultures and species that are not necessarily going to see gender, race, etc., the same way. And it's just, they're not all Star Wars humans are going to be white, for example. That you would eventually, you have that diversity, but it's going to feel like it is a huge push of, wow, look at all, there's Disney has this agenda, capital A, there's so many new black characters, so many new gay characters, etc., being pushed. Well, again, if you're trying to go for more of a balance or more of something more representative from even like a societal reflection, and you've had underrepresented groups for so long, and you're trying to get it back to a balance, even if you're introducing new characters, even of the more overrepresented groups, you're still going to see it be more of a push from the other end, from the underrepresented side. It's a question of how you do it, right? It's a question of whether are we talking about, I don't even know where the thing is I'm supposed to be shooting here. Are we dealing with a situation where, something is, it's a character where something does make a difference or doesn't make a difference to the characterization? I think that one thing, I think Finn, they never make a big deal about the fact that Finn, why is it stopping me? I don't think anybody made a big deal in universe that Finn was a black character. We know he's not a Django clone, but what did it matter, right, in the grand scheme of things? And people got mad about that, right? They're pushing the character. Well, at what point did race matter? They could have cast anybody in that role, right? Didn't even necessarily have to be male, as we found out with Janna eventually, but it could cast anybody in that role. Or you have instances where the demographic does wind up being a huge thing, like with Afra. And I don't mean the demographic of her being space Asian, but the fact that she is a space lesbian, a gay character in Star Wars. And again, there's a couple different ways you can do it. There are going to be people who are going to be upset about it. Why is it not hitting anything? They're going to be upset about it regardless. I don't think I can shoot it from here, can I? Yeah, there are people who are going to be upset about it regardless. That doesn't work either. But to me, I think it comes down to, okay, you got this character. You are going to be more representative by making this particular character. I'm just gonna chill. You're going to make this character a gay character. Okay, fine. You're going to make it a gay character. But is that something, is it going to be like Finn, where it's just a character trait, but it doesn't really make a difference? Or is it going to be part of the story? And I think you would see with Dr. Afra, what they've managed to do with her is tell a story in which the fact that she is a gay character is sort of in your face all the time. But in a way that is natural to the type of story they're telling. If this was a heterosexual male character in that same story, I think the story would probably play out in a similar way. You'd have like the disgruntled ex. In fact, we saw that with Sana when first introduced with Han. You'd have like, the Imperial who falls for the main character and winds up betraying the Empire and then regrets it because the main character is such a scoundrel. It doesn't even matter that Afra is a woman in some respects, in the way that the story is being told. So, people are going to politicize anything. But, there's got to be more nuance to the discussions. It can't just be diversity bad, Disney bad, you are this political stripe bad, you hold this view on Star Wars bad, you prefer this continuity of Star Wars bad. You prefer this version of a Star Wars film bad. But that is what our politics have done to us. It's ironic. One of the things that my students are doing right now, my sociology students are doing DBAs, the discussion-based assessments, basically phone call-based assessments on big ideas. And one of them is the idea of deviance, right? The idea that someone who deviates from the norm in a sociological sense, not necessarily a deviant is a bad thing, but someone who deviates from the norm and the effects that deviance has on society, like bringing about social change or causing disruption and disorder, depending on the situation. And one of the things that they talk about on the DBAs a lot, because they have like the 5 different major ways that sociologists say that deviance affects society, and they have like the 5 different ways and they wind up talking about 3 of them as part of the discussion by phone. And one of them is the idea that anything different creates the ability to draw a distinction of us versus them, a dividing line. Or as a friend of mine put it, nothing brings people together like an enemy, right? And it's just the nature of the politics and the way that society is right now, basically, that, something that should bring us together like Star Wars, and something that should be able to be free of modern politics, at least, is going to kick your ass, if you at all try to enjoy it without being aware of the political, miasma in which we all live now, one way or the other. And yeah, I'm totally just running in circles so that I can talk. I'm tempted to just put it on the menu screen and just talk, but I feel like there'd be like some dead air. Take a drink and not get my ass kicked. Oh, nope, something's gonna try to kill me. Oh, pause menu. The line there about do people really like to see men save women? I think people like to see heroic characters. And there was a time within, again, societal norms change, right? Societal expectations change. What we find appropriate and what we find attractive changes, right? There was a time when, the hot thing was to, be of a body type that makes it look as though you are prime for mating. Not prime for sex, prime for mating, like your body is healthy enough to carry a child, for instance. Then it became like the sexy body type is to look so supermodel-ish that you have to wonder when the last time was that you had a decent meal. The norms change over time, right? And there was a time in which the expectation would be, and the thing that would be considered kind of the heroic thing for a male to do would be to do something for or show protection of a woman. What it didn't tend to do was then provide women with sort of an equal representation of instances of what a woman was supposed to do to be strong, which is a little bit different than just like a classic gender role, because someone could be doing what is expected of their gender and not have that be something that shows strength of that character. So I think that the longer time has gone on, the more we've gotten away from those sort of like even like, I'm not even say like pre-1920s mentalities when it comes to women, or pre-World War I mentality even, if you want to look at, prior to women really entering the workforce in a large number during World War I, that you're looking at a growing, not dissatisfaction with that type of story, but that it doesn't really fit what society wants to see in its heroes in a lot of cases anymore. Just like for a while there were like the blaxploitation films, this is what certain audiences thought would be, a good representation of a black character, a strong black character. And they would defend stuff these days that we would look back and go, holy shit, that's crazy racist, right? But they'd be like, yeah, but see, they were doing a story and the black character gets to do this for once. There's always a context of the times, and I would say society. I stay the hell off of Twitter and I still see plenty of shit. And people don't think about context much of the time, I will say. I haven't even done anything worthwhile in ages. I'm just running in circles. Maybe there's some ambrosia to go find where all I gotta do is just like find it. Anything? Any ambrosia? Any ambrosia around here? No? I'll just go and chill at the Hall of the Gods. I won't even really play. Check out these load screens. The load time is like that compared to PS4. It's amazing. Solid state drives. But yeah, I mean, people want to react without context. I've been getting, me and another teacher have been getting a lot of praise for assisting with the situation recently at where I teach. For context here, because context matters, I teach entirely online, and we use a platform for our courses called Edgenuity. And Edgenuity provides the content with like videos and stuff like that. And basically we facilitate and we assist the students and stuff like that. And in some of the content, there are maps of the Middle East where Israel is now that are labeled Palestine. Okay. And we've had multiple instances recently because of everything going on with Israel and that whole situation right now. I guess a ceasefire just started, but that whole situation where people were fired up and angry over that situation, and their response to seeing a map of that region labeled Palestine, not Israel, pissed them off. And we got all kinds of, not a ton, but several complaints of people saying, why does this platform have the region of, why does it have Israel labeled as Palestine? There is no state of Palestine. This is the company pushing an agenda. Maybe it's a school system pushing an agenda. Maybe it's, somebody's pushing an agenda here. Well, the response was always the same, which is, okay, but the map you're talking about is from the period between World War I and the formation of Israel in 48. You're looking at the time period of the British Mandate. There is no country of Israel yet. If you're going to label that area, if you're not going to call it British Mandate, which would have been even more than that area, or go before that and call it like the Ottoman Empire, then what you're talking about in that area is its geographical name. There are no states there. What is the geographical name of that area? Palestine. Nobody's claiming there's a Palestinian state, but if you're going to label a map of that region prior to Israel being there, and it's during the Mandate system and you're looking for a regional name, the only name to use is Palestine, right? But people were getting angry and complaining all the way up to the superintendent because they were seeing these maps and not thinking about the context of them, not thinking about where it is. In fact, in one case, I think it was like a kid looking over another kid's shoulder or something and getting angry. And if that was really what the company was trying to do or what the content was doing, absolutely there would be a huge reason to be angry because, aside from politics, it would have been giving false information by claiming there was a state of Palestine in the region. There just isn't one by the typical traditional definition of what a state is. Nation, maybe. State, no, because it's a question of, physical boundaries and all that kind of stuff. The things that typically define what a state is from a social science perspective. But they weren't thinking about that. They were seeing it and having the knee-jerk reaction and not thinking about context and reacting to it, which people do. It's hard to blame them when people do that all the time now. That is sort of the society we live in. It's all instant gratification and think in tweets, react in tweets, not on Twitter per se, but the thought process being, limit the amount of cognition, limit the amount of, the response time, and limit the depth of the response as much of the time to what you could fit into a tweet or a string of tweets. Which is unfortunate. But again, it's something that, it's going to affect Star Wars and just about anything else for as long as, as long as it's around. I would imagine this game probably took some crap because the main character is a female character. Let's get the headgear off of here. I mean, you're playing in Greek times as a young woman who is a soldier, basically, who is tapped by the gods to go save everybody. Agenda! It's like take the game Control. The game Control is freaking awesome. Happens to have a female protagonist. Does that make it an agenda? Does it make it an agenda that Nintendo called it The Legend of Zelda when the main character is Link? And there's good arguments to be had on many sides of many issues. But context matters, details matter, nuance matters, right? I mean, it can't just be surface level or we're never going to get anywhere.
you're in the market for anything.
Am I in the market for anything? How about more, more cherry coke before my throat goes? I'm gonna give it maybe 2:30 Eastern. 25 minutes, probably not that long, but I'm just gonna kind of probably jump back to the main screen because there's nothing for me to do here. But if I leave the game, it's gonna kill the stream. So I'm just gonna go to the main menu screen. Quit to title screen. And yes, this is another game with tons of freaking paid content if you want it. No, I do not. I don't want to buy different clothing for my character. Thank you very much. Okay, there we go. Maybe we'll take it to 2:15. My throat is just starting to go, and it's 2:05 a.m. Haven't had haven't had the opportunity to even take a shower yet. Waited till my son went to sleep and then jumped in here to see if this would work with Returnal. And I don't know. I would assume so. I would assume so with the 2024 and whatnot. But the Trumpinator suggests Terminator. But is that Terminator as Trump as the Terminator? Making the villain, but then the hero, back and forth. Or Trumpinator as in, like, terminating Trump. It kind of takes it the other direction. Honestly, I don't particularly care much. When I'm interacting with people, I try to, as long as people are being intellectually honest, I'm fine with it. If you're a big lie kind of purveyor, or if someone's like a straight up, QAnon conspiracy theorist type thing, then I'm like, yeah, whatever. But I'm yeah, whatever when somebody is just being a dick making comments on home video stuff, I don't care as much in relation to the politics. I care about politics a lot. I follow it closely, and it makes differences in real life to me. But when it comes to online interactions and, things we try to do to get away from politics and the fun, I try not to let that be kind of a thing. But at the same time, I'm not going to be intellectually dishonest about it and pretend that something, is fine when it's not, isn't fine when it is, blah, blah, blah. And sort of tailor things from a political perspective. I'd much rather talk about the deeper stuff in terms of like sociology and whatnot. And that's the problem with the question right there. What side are you on? It's assuming that there are two sides. It is assuming that you can't be anywhere else. I tend to be a political independent. I agree with Republicans on some stuff. I agree with Democrats on others, partly because I teach both economics, which sometimes leans left, but usually economics, until you're into the heavy Keynesian stuff, tends to lean more like standard supply and demand, which leans a little bit more political right, at least in an American sense. And kind of a mixture of topics in a European sense. But sociology tends to be topics that usually lean more left, typically, because the social sciences in some respects winds up being, once you get away from like just hard history, winds up tending to be a little left-leaning anyway. Which is why there was like the sort of the big push of like founding father stuff, last probably 2 decades or so, a little bit less than 2 decades, because it was sort of like a reaction to social sciences starting to lean further left and trying to counteract that as well. So I tend to kind of fall in the middle. I tend to be wary of most politicians, but I think we're at a time now where I would love to see the American right have a viable political party again that was not a cult of a demagogue at this point. I would love to see a reality-embracing intellectually honest American political right now. Because we desperately need real conservative voices out there. Not ones that are, they're not ones that are like whatever Trump says goes, but actual, true conservative principles, because you're only going to have a lively debate, find real solutions that cross party lines. When you've got both a political left and a political right with robust ideas and intellectual honesty. And yeah, we're talking politics, so intellectual honesty, that may be too much to ask for from both sides most of the time. But you know what I mean. I feel like we've reached a point where for a while there, it was the left going to an extreme, and then the right just kind of went lemminged off the cliff under Trump. And I don't know what comes after. I fear for what comes after. Because we need, on the one hand, it's you don't want to see a Trumpist party be the domination because of the whole issue with, not acknowledging reality and stuff like that much of the time. The big lie and all that. But there is also much to be feared from having a situation where the political right implodes and there only is the left dominated by a far left wing. Right? You don't want a far end of either. Typically, Americans, when you look at the polls, and not just talking about politics in general, but just you look at the polls. Typically, Americans tend to be pretty middle of the road, tend to be pretty easygoing, kind of like I'm saying with the Star Wars stuff. They just want to kind of get along and go about their day, live their lives, enjoy what they can, and just kind of be normal, not be extreme in one way or the other. But it's hard in polarized times that seem to be getting more polarized, particularly with what happened with post-election stuff with Trump and everything, that you've got, we're further and further away from that level of intellectually honest discussion than we had been before. And I don't know when in my lifetime it was sort of a renaissance of that. I mean, they did seem to come together a little bit after 9/11. That's about it, right? But where we are now is not a sustainable model. It just isn't. And we need a sustainable model, but especially when our cycles are 4 years long, because midterms change things politically. They don't change things psychologically for a society. For American society, typically, it takes a change of presidents, not a change of Congress. And a 4-year cycle is a long time to be caught in a rut, and too many of those in a row with that kind of polarization. And where does the middle where does it come back? So yeah. So the question was about episode 401 of from the Star Wars Home Video Library. I honestly don't know. I have not recorded anything new on Sunday. I'm going to need to record, but I'm going to be recording the update video. Basically. And I missed that, by the way, if you want to say it again. But I'll be recording like the Patreon and project update video, and then probably retaking some pictures. I gotta click a button on my remote because it's about to go idle. For some reason, the last time I took some pictures with my photo box, they all came out dull, I guess is the way to put it. It almost felt like there was smoke or dust in the room in terms of the way the colors were washed out. Thankfully, it was only 5 products that pictures were taken of, so we're only talking about maybe 100 shots, maybe less. But I'm going to need to retake some pictures too, so between those two, I don't know when that is, that I'll be doing the next episodes. Plus, I don't know what they're going to be on yet. I've got some stuff still to go through and kind of look over before I do episodes. I've got some French language, French dubbed, I think, Laserdiscs to look at. A Jeremy Bullock VHS that's one that he put together, I guess, or that's about him, that is actually signed by Jeremy Bullock, that I got shortly before he passed. Stuff like that. But most of it is stuff that now, it's not like I know offhand all the details. I'm going to have to actually watch through some stuff. And in the case of VHS stuff, which is what a lot of it is, that means watching in our kitchen, basically, where we have our region-free VHS player. or I guess all region free, all regions. It's got like you fold down the front and you get to pick like what format it is, like CCAM, PAL, NTC, whatever, and then you tell it what to spit it out as, and it does. So I don't know what you would call that, because it's not like it's recording it to a new format, but lets you play all the different regions. Look at the time. You go a little bit if you like. I heard him stirring a second ago. What little I can hear. These are noise canceling. Noise canceling 3D audio headphones with built-in microphones. Apparently 2 of them. Fancy schmancy. Better be for $100 freaking for a pair of headphones. I will possibly, by the way, if I do get a chance to do more streaming like this, because I really enjoy the conversations, I might try streaming Star Wars Squadrons, because I can play that on the PS5. Honestly, I just have a hard time getting into that game. Like, at all. I just really, it's just tough. I've tried it a couple times, once in VR, once not, and I just can't get the enjoyment out of it. Imagine if Paramount did Star Wars like the bootleg VCDs. I have no idea what that means, so probably need a explanation. And what Paramount has anything to do with it. Thank you guys. If you're heading out, then thank you all for watching. I'm going to stick around for probably another, little bit, probably 10, 15 minutes at most. But, since the conversation's still going, but if the conversation winds down, or we hit 2:30, whichever comes first, then I'll head out. But I know that it takes a minute for what I'm saying to catch up to the comments. There's like a lag there, so I don't want to wind up bailing right before somebody has a question or last comment or something like that. I guess what time is it in? I guess if you're Pacific, it's like 11:17, so it's getting there even if you're on the American West Coast. I'm now Eastern, so I'm at the other far end of it. I grew up in Central, so it wasn't quite as big of a lag. But we always had to go by the second time when they would say, airs 7/6 Central. It's like, yeah, just single us out. Let me see. Grabbing my controller to see if there's any, it'll tell me how many folks are still, oh, there we go, yeah. 4 folks still watching, it says. So I will keep it up. Any thoughts on the Warner Brothers logo from 2021? I honestly don't recall the Warner Brothers logo from 2021. I'm sure I saw it because I'm assuming it was on Snyder's Justice League. But I can't think of what would make it different off the top of my head. But again, logos typically aren't my thing. Like, you'd have to sit down and, walk me through, as I've seen on YouTube, walk me through like the different Lucasfilm logos, right? Walk me through the Lucasfilm logos to even recognize some of the changes of them. Once you got away from just like the blue text, or I guess it was the green text initially, to actually having logos, and onward, that kind of thing. It's just never been my forte. Hell, I'm still sitting back. I did the video recently on the Burger King Complete the Saga toys, right, that were used to promote the Revenge of the Sith DVD. And when I showed the image coming out of, I think it was the Stormtrooper, the only reason I knew that it was an Imperial cog and not a Republic cog was because it was a Stormtrooper whose feet it was coming out of. I have trouble recognizing, Imperial versus Rebel, or Imperial versus Republic cog as well. Although I guess the Imperial cog is the one that looks like the Walmart logo. We're rolling back prices, and your rights, you rebel scum, basically. Again, I know I've seen the numbers rising here, so we're at the tail end of the stream. I'm going to give it till 2:30 Eastern at most, and then we'll wrap it up here, but we just have more questions and stuff. Yep, yeah, the digital versions, it was a rights issue, right? Because you had the rights of of A New Hope until this is all pre-sale stuff, pre 21st Century Fox selling off entertainment assets, including 20th Century Fox to Disney. Prior to that, the agreement was that the contract was the physical and all distribution rights, including digital, which didn't even exist at the time, but all distribution rights for A New Hope rested with 20th Century Fox in perpetuity, right, forever. Physical distribution rights for the prequels, Empire and Jedi, were with Fox until 2020, or 20th Century Fox, until 2020. But then other distribution rights, which eventually included digital, were not. Whoever owned those rights, or whoever owned Lucasfilm owned those rights, the digital rights. And that was Disney now. So in 2015, when we got the digital releases, A New Hope, which initially was not on Disney Movies Anywhere, by the way, you had to get it through another platform until eventually you have Movies Anywhere. When 20th Century Fox kind of joined the fold. But A New Hope had the 20th Century Fox fanfare because it was still tied to 20th Century Fox, whereas they didn't need to have that fanfare on the other 5. And they removed them. They removed the fanfares when they were released essentially solely under Disney through those digital releases in 2015. Now it's not an issue, of course, because and that's why you still see the logos without the News Corp thing on it, because it's not News Corp anymore. With the 4K versions, for instance, because now 20th Century Fox was purchased out of 21st Century Fox by Disney. How the rights are held, I would assume so. I would assume that if there's a hierarchy of the way the rights are held, I'm assuming it's that Disney owns 20th Century Fox / 20th Century Studios, and that's what gives them all those rights for A New Hope. But not necessarily, right? Because now that they own that, they can sort of control the rights structure and essentially trade it back to themselves if they just sign a piece of paper, right? So if they want, they could take the rights, and they may have the rights to A New Hope's distribution, and instead of having it under the umbrella of the 20th Century Studios, or whatever it's called now, part of the Disney hierarchy, move it over to the Lucasfilm part of the hierarchy with the other distribution rights. Because even if the purchase hadn't gone through, the physical rights to all but A New Hope from the original 6 would have reverted to Lucasfilm in 2020 anyway, had the sale not happened. Or again, 2021. I think it was through 2020, not until 2020. Was how that was supposed to work. But yeah, so you get those truncated, horrible fanfares. But ironically, those are actually fairly sought after right now. Because I have no idea about differences with those, except for like the company changes. But I can hit those. The irony is, it's actually kind of sought after to get your hands on the actual digital releases from 2015 for the Star Wars films, at least all but A New Hope, because they've replaced those on all the streaming services with the current cut that actually premiered on Disney+. So you can't actually get those anymore, unless you downloaded them as backup copies or something like that when it was still allowed, when those files were still available. It's not possible to get that particular cut of the films anymore. Granted, it's a minor variation, but it's just not possible to get those anymore, which is kind of a big deal from a home video collecting standpoint. As for the logos, I mean, you got 20th Century Fox. On the early releases, through 82, you got CBS Fox Video. Once you get to 83, as you're heading into 91, 92, you're switching to Fox Video. I forget the exact year. It switches over to 20th Century Fox Home Entertainment. And then eventually, of course, you got Walt Disney Studios Home Entertainment. I mean, that's an easy way to keep track of eras in which releases happen. Less so in other regions, because a lot of times you'll see CBS Fox Video logos alongside 20th Century Fox Video logos, but you see those more prominently in other regions. I'm not sure if there's a distribution issue with that at all. Foreign releases are not my area of expertise, except in little niche areas where I've just sort of educated myself heavily over the years. US is my bailiwick. Yes, I just used Forte and bailiwick, both. After also talking some sociology earlier and deviance, little d deviance. Yep, definitely a teacher or a nerd, or both, which is the best of both worlds. Not to make a Trek reference, another Trek reference, because I made the reference to Undiscovered Country. All right, 5 minutes. We're at 2:25 a.m., which also may give you a sense of where the lag is. Weird random bumpers used on Warner releases. I have no idea what those would be off the top of my head. I don't really pay that much attention to that sort of thing on home video stuff, unless I guess I should sit back. I don't get that granular with it, especially when you're looking at early media formats. Like, I barely own any VHS at this point, outside of, I own, the Star Wars VHS stuff, and how on earth am I going to know French bumpers for Warner? That's very random. Like Willow and Spaceballs and other Star Wars related stuff, but I don't think I have any other VHSs. I might still have the original un-TNT-ified version of the Babylon 5 pilot, The Gathering. I might. On VHS. I'm trying to think. I think the only other VHS I might have saved, there was a time when there was a TV show version of Time Cop, which is a franchise that I enjoyed that barely lasted very long. And I missed a couple episodes. And at one point, I was in contact. Actually, the first famous person I ever met online, ever, during the dial-up days, when I was on America Online, was Mark Verheiden, who eventually wound up, he did all kinds of stuff like Battlestar Galactica and tons of different stuff, but at the time, what he was working on was Time Cop. In fact, my original AOL name, my screen name, my username was Jack the Ripper, JK space TH space RPPR, after the character of Ian Pascoe, the villain of Time Cop, the TV series, who had gone back in time, and when we first meet him, he has replaced Jack the Ripper, and is trying to up his kill count and stuff like that. And in interacting with him on a Time Cop forum where there were hardly any users at all, he actually, when I told him I was missing a couple episodes, he made copies of the 2 episodes I was missing on a VHS cassette and mailed it to me back in the day so that I could have them all. Because I had been recording them from television. One of them, the recording was missed or got messed up by like a storm or something, and the other, I forgot to set a timer for when we were on vacation. And he sent me both of them. And I still have that cassette somewhere. Because I thought that was so cool that he'd do something like that for somebody. He didn't know me for nothing. But he knew I was a guy on the forum who named myself on AOL after one of the characters in something he had done, and that I was a big fan of it, and just happened to miss it. And that was back in the days where you couldn't just, unless there was a VHS package of that series, and there never was one, you wouldn't be able to get it, and it probably wouldn't air again because it was not a long-lived series. It was gone pretty quickly. It was the way to see it. But most of my VHS cassettes I have since digitized, back when it worked better with my old computer than this one. I've since digitized, so the VHS cassettes are stored, given to my mom back in Indiana or something, or otherwise just kind of gone. Question about the TNT version of The Gathering. I've got that on the box sets. I've got all the DVD box sets of Babylon 5, and it's in one of those. I need to rewatch it though on HBO Max. I don't like the fact that it's in pan and scan as opposed to the widescreen, but the widescreen was like a tweaked-ish widescreen anyway that kind of screwed with the effects. So I'll probably watch it on HBO Max at some point whenever I get the opportunity. There was something, what was that last question? Edited TV movies on, or TV edits of movies? I mean, standards and practices means you're going to have edits for TV, for movies on TV, if you're going to show them at all. And of course, you'll have to have the commercial break splits and stuff like that. As a home video collector, it'd be nice to see all the different versions of something on home release. Like, I would love to have seen, because before, before the Blu-ray releases in HD of the original 6 Star Wars films, there were airings on Spike and on Cinemax, I think, that were in HD. But it was the previous cut from the previous master without the tweaks. Which meant that there is an HD version of what is essentially an oddly cropped version of the 2004 era of DVDs, like 2004-ish, like 2001 to 2005-ish era of DVDs in HD that we never got on home video in HD, right? We got it only in SD, didn't quite get the same cropping on it, and then eventually, of course, those were supplanted by the Blu-rays, which had more changes to them, even though they were still HD compared to, the aired version. Darkwing Duck, love the theme song. Haven't seen the show in ages. Prison Break, watched them all. It's one of those shows that should have stopped after a season. It was awesome in that first season. And then it just kept feeling like retreads and really was not as good as it went season to season, to the point where it kind of outstayed its welcome. It is an example of a similar phenomenon, though not as bad, as Heroes on NBC. Great first season, downhill from there. And speaking of downhill from there, maybe I need to make this a box instead of a circle. But speaking of downhill from there, it is now just past 2:30 a.m. here on the East Coast of the United States. I will be calling it a night here, hopping in the shower, and then going the heck to bed. So thank you all. I've really enjoyed having the conversations. It'd be really one of those things where I miss this. You know, it's kind of like I miss doing those mini Qs, but God knows what questions people would ask anymore. Those mini Q&A episodes that I just don't have as much time to record. But I doubt I'll have a whole lot of time to stream, but I enjoy being able to do it when I can. And like I said, if I can do it more regularly, I might do it with Squadrons. Maybe that'll help me get into the game and force me to actually play it. Right now, it's more likely to be something like Returnal, maybe Miles Morales' Spider-Man, stuff like that. I finished Demon Souls already. I did a full playthrough. I'm not going to do New Game Plus. Finished Godfall. Not going to do any new end game content on Godfall. So it's probably going to be Returnal, maybe Resident Evil Village, maybe Immortals Fenyx Rising, but it's just not as entertaining to me to watch Immortals because I'm just screwing around. I think it's more dynamic watching Returnal, but there's only so many times I can get my ass kicked after playing for 2 hours on a game that has no save feature, even a roguelike version of a save feature. But alas, I will be heading out of here. I'm assuming what this will do is this will save it and process it shortly after the stream ends, so it shows up regularly on the channel. So if you are someone participating in the conversation here, and you want to continue asking related questions, give it a little bit for this to process, and then check the channel, and it should be on there as a regular video, and you can just do regular comments, and I should see those and be able to still respond. Maybe not as in-depth or on the fly as I would doing the video stuff here on the stream, but that would allow it to still be an ongoing conversation if you like. So again, thank you guys for participating. This was really fun. Hopefully I'll come up with a better way to deal with the chat there. Maybe there's options I just don't know exist. I'm probably going to make a square around my face instead of a circle, and we will go from there for another one, possibly even tomorrow. As long as I can keep my son out of the shot and not neglecting him in the process of streaming, I think it's something that might still be a doable thing when I'm off duty. So thanks, guys. Have a good, morning at this point.